Just be kind and listen to the rewind.
Welcome to the Rewind Podcast, the show that explores TV and film through a queer, millennial lens. I'm Keenan.
I'm Jonah, and today's episode will be different from our typical format. This has been a tough week for millennials. As most of you listening probably heard by now, actress Michelle Trachtenberg, known for her iconic roles in Harriet the Spy, Gossip Girl, and of course, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, passed away on Wednesday, February 26th. Buffy was the impetus for us launching this podcast 5 years ago and was the first TV show we featured. And as Buffy fans, we understand how important Michelle's character, Dawn Summers, was to the plot of the show, virtually changing the dynamic of the Buffyverse forever as the little sister nobody asked for, but whom we all came to love. So, naturally, we feel compelled to dedicate this episode to remembering and honoring the legacy Michelle left, both through her work on screen and in her real life.
Oh my God, let me collect myself because I am a little teary-eyed. Okay, so that's right, y'all. We're going to hit rewind on some of Michelle's most notable roles and some of our favorite characters she played. But first, who was Michelle and how did she end up on our screens? Michelle Christine Trachtenberg was born October 11th, 1985 in New York City, New York. She made her professional acting debut at the age of 3 in a TV commercial. It was Whisk. Her first commercial was Whisk detergents. And her parents were immigrants, I believe Russian and German Jews. And so she is fluent in Russian. Isn't that wild? At 5, she landed a guest appearance on the drama series Law and Order. And at 7, she was on an episode of Clarissa Explains It All. I think she was like a cousin, maybe. I could be wrong.
She was, I don't know if she was related, but she
or like
was being babysat by Clarissa. She was a nightmare kid.
3 reasons should do what you say.
Well, let's see. Because respecting elders is a time-honored tradition. Because your parents paid good money for a valuable service. And because if you don't, I'll just have to... You would hurt me. No, I didn't. Oh, geez, Elsie, please stop crying.
I can't. You upset me.
I brought videotapes.
Let me see.
Yeah. Yes. By the time she was 8, Michelle had a regular role playing Lily Benton Montgomery on the soap opera All My Children, which was always on at my household. We were an ABC soaps family. I couldn't tell you anything about any of those stories, but to this day, my mom cannot stand Sarah Michelle Gellar because I think she was on General Hospital.
She was on All My Children as well.
Was she All My Children as well? Okay. Yeah, my mom was not a fan of Kendall. Not a fan. So, me loving Buffy was not that great in our house. So she also had a regular role on Nickelodeon series, The Adventures of Pete and Pete. And I don't know if you remember watching that show, but I definitely did. I enjoyed it. She stayed with both shows for 2 years before making her film debut at the age of 10, playing the title role in Harriet the Spy in 1996 opposite the one and only Rosie O'Donnell.
I wasn't a big Nickelodeon kid. I was more Disney, but I do remember watching Harriet the Spy. And as I was preparing for this episode today, I was watching clips and I forgot how good it is.
Oh, I rewatched it the other night. That was, I was like, oh, what a walk down memory lane. This girl was in everybody's business. That scene when she rolled into the bathroom to read that little girl.
Oh, just you wait. Just you wait.
It was just so brutal. I was just like, she went in there just to read that girl. She didn't have to pee. Oh my God, yes. What a savage in that. Harriet. Okay. Michelle won the Young Artist Award for Best Leading Young Actress in a Feature Film for her work on Harriet the Spy. The following year, she won another Young Artist Award for a supporting role in the short-lived CBS sitcom Mego, 1997. I am not familiar with that show. Her second feature film role as Penny in Inspector Gadget, 1999, opposite Matthew Broderick, earned her yet another Young Artist Award nomination. Do you know what's so weird about that is when I just had the actress's name in my head, and now when I close my eyes and I think about Penny from Inspector Gadget, I don't see her. I know this is going to sound weird, but that Lily Grace Moritz girl, I know it's not her, but that's who I see when I close my eyes.
Chloe Grace?
Yes. What did I say her name was?
Lily.
I almost called her Millie. I was going to mix her and that Millie Bobby Brown person or whatever that girl's name is.
Millie Bobby Moritz.
But nope. It was our girl, Michelle. Michelle. That earned her a nomination. And then in 2001, she won her third Young Artist Award for her role on the series Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Other credits.
I just realized she and Sarah Michelle Gellar have the same name. Why have I never realized Michelle Trachtenberg and Sarah Michelle Gellar have the same name? I'm sorry. That literally just hit me. All the time.
That one's first name is Michelle and the other one's middle name is Michelle.
Yes. How have I never even thought about that? That's so crazy, right?
God. Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh my God, sorry.
That's why they were destined to play sisters, I guess.
Oh, and they were both on All My Children.
Yes, they were both on All My Children as well. Other credits include telefilms such as Christmas in My Hometown, 1996, A Father's Choice, 2000, and the independent feature Can't Be Heaven, 2000. When Buffy ended in 2003, Michelle took on the role of Jenny in the feature film EuroTrip. Let me tell you, EuroTrip was like one of those movies that came out while I was in college. So it was very much like a movie that was on all the time. And it was like that era of comedy, like that was so funny. Like, Jenny's a girl.
It's the raunchy American Pie era.
Yes, exactly. And it was so good. And it was definitely her like, I'm a full adult now. Look at me in this like two-piece bikini and on EuroTrip, and I'm living. But she also acted with Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the independent film drama Mysterious Skin in 2005, based on a novel by Scott Helm. That movie was so like the Blockbuster here used to have a little LGBTQ section, and that was the movie we rented and watched, and it was like, so it was a gay movie about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like coming out story, but he was like from the wrong side of town, or like, you know, he was hustling, trying to get by, and it was an interesting movie. I don't remember a whole lot about it. I do remember the guy who played Barbas on Charmed was an old creeper that was trying to pay for a night with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So there's a little bit more that was sad about that scene, but it was one of those movies that it was like, oh, it's a movie about gay people, so we're gonna watch it and see what that's about. And so that when I was like, oh my God, I completely forgot about Mysterious Skin altogether, let alone that she was in it. That just, I don't know. In Ice Princess 2005, she starred as a girl who realizes her dream of becoming a champion figure skater. On television, Trachtenberg filmed 4 episodes of HBO's award-winning series 6 Feet Under. From 2008 to 2012, she played Georgina Sparks, a manipulative character who tries to get Serena, Blake Lively, in trouble on the popular teen drama series Gossip Girl. Now, let me stop for a second and underscore Because were you a Gossip Girl, or did you ever watch Gossip Girl? Okay.
Mm-mm.
First of all, as I was rewatching some of those clips from the show, I completely had the face of the girl who plays Peyton's friend on the basketball show.
Are you talking about One Tree Hill?
Yes, One Tree Hill. So who
Soto
was
Bush?
Yeah, what was her character's name?
Oh God, what was her character's name?
So like that character was essentially Brooke was that version of Blair Waldorf. So Blair is like the Brooke of Gossip Girl. And I think Peyton was like Serena Vanderwoodson of Gossip Girl, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
Now, mind you, I don't have a One Tree Hill equivalent of that character, but Georgina Sparks was the Spike. Okay? Georgina Sparks was the Spike of Gossip Girl.
The Spike and not the Cordelia?
No. She was a mean girl, yes, but she was a mean girl brought in to specifically stir up shit.
Sabotage.
And was loved so much that she came back in every season of Gossip Girl. She wasn't just like a one-off character a couple of times. Like she is a part of the lore of Gossip Girl, so much so that they brought her in the second season of the reboot.
Yeah, so I didn't watch Gossip Girl, but I remember I didn't hear much about Gossip Girl, but what I did hear above anything else about the show was Georgina Sparks. So yes. I feel like, and I've seen enough clips here and there that I felt like I knew her or that character or knew the show more than I really did because I've just seen so much and heard so much about Georgina.
They put my girl in a smoky eye and shit was about to get real. Okay. She was all about those shoulder pads. It's very like sharp shoulder pads and a smoky eye. And Georgina Sparks was coming for you. Okay. She lived for vengeance. She lived for it.
Why vengeance? What did they do to her?
People are okay. So if I remember correctly, like she was the party friends, and then Serena kind of like gets out of the life, but she's like, how dare you? How dare you try to like mature as a person on me? I'm coming for you. And then so she like rolls into New York while Serena's at like I think she was at like reforming school or some kind of boarding school. And so no one knows Georgina Sparks. So she comes in with a different name and she like implants herself into her friends' lives. And it forces Serena to have to tell the truth. This is when storylines were driven on people not communicating, not like being honest with one another, or like, oh, this secret is just so intense. Like I can't say anything, or it's just going to be the end of everything. And the issues were probably like, the consequences will probably be way more minor because they were like teenagers, rich white teenagers at that. But like, it was, you know how I feel about like, okay, I feel like we've evolved past having to rely on secrecy to keep the stories going. But this was very much that time when the CW was like, no one's talking to anybody. You're not telling the truth. And so that would allow
CW, like late 90s, early 2000s trope.
Yes. And it just allowed Georgina's character to like make her way in and cause all kind of chaos. It was a good time. It was a good time.
Who would have known sweet little Michelle would have played like villainous screen bitch so effectively?
She did it in Weeds as well. So
really?
Yeah, I rewatched her arc. It was like 4 or 5 episode arc on the very last season of Weeds. And I was like, oh, and which made me realize that there was a season 8 that I've never seen. I thought I had all the seasons on DVD, and I guess I just thought it ended on a cliffhanger. But I Googled the other day, and now there's a whole other season that I have to find and watch.
What a pleasant surprise for you.
I know. All because I'm revisiting some works of our girl, So as I said, she reprised the role in 2 episodes of the revival series from 2022 to 23. I did not hate the Gossip Girl series, but the reboot was something. I need a little bit more from the OGs, I guess. Some of her final screen work included host and narrator of the to-be true crime docuseries Meet, Marry, Murder, and narrating for the docuseries Spiral to support mental health charities. Oh, such a good... Michelle was found deceased in her New York City apartment by her mother. Her family objected to an autopsy due to their religious beliefs. Therefore, Michelle's death was officially ruled undetermined. While the exact cause of her death remains unclear, it has been widely reported that she may have had complications from a liver transplant she had received in the past year.
Just...
Yeah,
so
I was
upsetting.
watching some videos earlier, and so whenever the call comes in, they were talking about there was a person in emotional distress, and they were like, oh, this is leading us to believe that there's something more, like, that could be more behind her death. And I'm like, no, her mother found her and had to call 911. Of course she's emotionally distressed. Like, what the fuck?
Like, let's not make it more than it is. It is what it is. Like, and the truth is we don't know what all that is, and we don't necessarily have a right to know that. We're not her family.
Right.
And it, what really pisses me off? I just want to say this. I figured we'd probably get to it in discussion. I'm just going to say it right out. It really pisses me off that, do you know this girl got drugged on social media over the past few years because of her appearance and people making assumptions about like her health and whether she was like on drugs and all this kind of stuff. And like, she had to make a post to address this about like, this is just how I look. Get a calendar. I'm aging. Like, I'm not a young girl anymore. And even though she did look concerningly different, at the end of the day, the fact that someone who is as beautiful and as talented as this woman was, who gave us so much throughout her life and our lives as millennials, and will continue to give to us as we rewatch her work for years to come, that we did not celebrate and appreciate her more when she was alive. And now we're singing her praises and giving her flowers that she'll never see. It really just pisses me off, because this is what we do every time as a society with the entertainers that we love. We drag them when they're alive. We criticize them for their appearance and their changes and project choices, whatever. Where is the celebration of what all she's done? I mean, can you imagine what an impact that would have made in her life? Probably even at the end, like, had she had been hearing the kind of praise she's gotten since her death.
She has characters that are truly iconic. She has been in some part of our lives, like, she's had work that has influenced many parts of our lives, like, throughout the years. Like, she's just given us consistent good work, going from Harriet the Spy to Dawn to Georgina Sparks. Like, she was truly that girl. And
the range.
So I watched Black Christmas that you recommended last night, and I was like, oh my God, like, she has the comedic timing. She can do the drama. She can do the comedy. She can do the action. It's really sad that that people are the way they are, and we aren't owed any information into their lives. The same thing can be said with Chadwick Boseman. Like, he was very ill. He chose not to tell us about that, and he didn't owe that to us, and we don't deserve that information. If she had a liver transplant, clearly there was something going on there, but it's none of our business.
Right.
And we can
And
just,
I'm not interested in us getting into like the rumors of that or whatever. But yes, absolutely. There's been comparison with Chadwick's situation and just the shock of people not even realizing that she was sick. And I'm like, well, that's the people are entitled to their personal lives. We don't own our entertainers. They have given us the gift of entertaining us, but that doesn't mean we own them in any capacity or the right to know anything in their life. And yes, it is so painful and shocking when we find out that we've lost someone that we adore who has been in the limelight all of our lives and whose work we appreciate and value, and we are shocked sometimes in the ways that it happens, and then we want to know why and we want to blame, but at the end of the day, can we just remember to take a moment to celebrate them while they're still here to see it, instead of waiting until they're gone and giving their flowers after the fact when it's kind of moot?
Yeah. Do you know if she participated in a lot of like comic conventions or anything like that? Like, did she at least get to go be a part of a lot of those panels and just hear that outpouring of love from the fans?
I don't know. And I didn't find a lot of that in my research for this episode. As I'm seeing more Michelle content on TikTok and Reels, I anticipate maybe coming across some of that, but I've just never really seen her in like the convention space, like in any sort of video. So I'm not even sure. I wondered that myself, if she attended with some of the Buffy cast, some of these cons and stuff, because I could see that's where she would really get that love and adoration that she's probably not gonna see in like from mainstream Hollywood or out in the street necessarily.
Yeah, I can almost imagine that the social media negativity can just be so loud that the love is hard to get through. And I almost feel like the algorithm is meant to do that.
Mm-hmm. The algorithm
I feel like
brutal.
The conventions have been so great for so many people, being able to attend and just have your fans be able to come up to you and just say, your character was me. Like, Dawn was my best friend's little sister. 100%. And I like to think that, that they even grew up to be, good, productive people.
Yeah, I want to get into that too, because I actually found Dawn pretty relatable for the most part. And we'll get into that when we start discussing some of our favorite and most impactful roles of that we like the most of hers in a bit. But I do want to take a moment on a lighter note to talk about some things that a lot of people may not know about Michelle that I didn't know. And it was really fun finding this out. Do you know she's been hailed as the first Nickelodeon movie star?
Yeah. Harriet the Spy was the first Nickelodeon film.
I had no idea about that. And then I saw a throwback post on social media from Nickelodeon alum and SNL star Kenan Thompson. He wrote, "Our first Nickelodeon movie star, Michelle Trachtenberg, is a part of us. She was my friend, and now she rests. Check on your people." And I looked it up, and I'm like, wow, yeah, that was the first movie. I can't believe I didn't realize that. That's really cool. And that was something else. Where were those flowers? I've never heard anyone like identify her in that way or give her the credit for introducing Nickelodeon to the blockbuster path,
You know what's kind of interesting about that? And I did not see his name anywhere on this movie, so I'm like, who was involved in this? Because like I said, I rewatched Harriet the Spy, and there were a lot of feet in this film showing up. But the guy that Jeanette McCurdy refers to in her book as the creator, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I did not see his name anywhere on the movie, but that was like always a sign of some weirdness going on behind the scenes. Like people talk about all the foot stuff that was going on Nickelodeon.
Really?
Yeah. And so there were a lot of kids' feet in this movie, and I was just like,
Well, I do know he had a whole thing about sliming, and that was like a real. When you take a step back from that, and you hear the did you watch the docuseries?
Yeah, I've seen it, but they poured paint on her.
Yes, that was one of the scenes that I was gonna reference. Was okay. That was very similar to the sliming that you get in Nickelodeon. I'm like, it's kind of cringe when you watch it through that lens, knowing now what we know. Not saying that happened or that Michelle was, you know.
I feel like if that happened, if there were any, especially now with everything that came out about Buffy, I feel like if there were some things that she saw or felt were inappropriate, then she would have said something.
Yes. Because that was her. I think she was a very like call it out kind of person, and she didn't give a fuck. Like I think she called out Joss Whedon about, you know, when that all came out, and how, you know, like she was not allowed. The other women on set kind of rallied around her and wouldn't allow her to be alone with him because there was just some cringiness there. So I agree. I think she would have called that shit out now if she, all these years later, if there had been. So so far Harriet the Spy untouched by that cringe. But anyway, another thing was that you mentioned earlier was she was conversationally fluent in Russian, which she learned from her mom growing up. And in fact, for her role as Marina Oswald in the film Killing Kennedy, her script dialogue was mostly in Russian with some English later added. Her Russian-born mother acted as her translator in helping to break down her entire script, both phonetically and vernacularly. I think I read that there was like maybe 80 to 85% of that script that was Russian.
Oh, okay.
Very impressive. She was incredibly charitable, supporting a variety of causes over the years, including teen people naming her one of the 20 teens who will change the world for her active participation in a number of charities, including many anti-drug campaigns. Some other charities she was actively supportive of was Declare Yourself, which is a national nonpartisan nonprofit campaign initiated in 2004 to energize and empower a new movement of young voters. Motion Picture and Television Fund Foundation to protect and preserve the health and quality of life of those who devote so much of their lives to the industry. And the Urban Arts Partnership, which advances the intellectual, social, and artistic development of underserved public school students through arts integrated programs. So really cool stuff there that, you know, I didn't hear a lot about her before. And I think it's really cool that she was so charitable. It makes sense because a lot of what you hear from friends and peers now who've been honoring her has been that she was very kind and generous and giving and just a light in that way. And I could see, you know, her putting her money where her mouth is, you know, and that way that seemed to be a fundamental part of her character. So
yeah, I found an interview she did at an AIDS research charity event, and she talked about the importance of making sure that AIDS research was funded, because who knows, the person to cure it could be born tomorrow. Like, it was so sweet just to hear her talk about, you know, HIV and AIDS. I was like, oh, Michelle.
Yeah. Speaking of what others are saying about her, let's hear how friends and peers are remembering her. Rosie O'Donnell, who starred with Michelle in Harriet the Spy, said in a statement, "It's heartbreaking. I loved her very much. She struggled the last few years. I wish I could have helped."
I don't feel like she needed to include the struggle part, but
Yeah.
So James Marsters, who co-starred with Michelle on Buffy, said, My heart is heavy today. We have lost a beautiful soul. Michelle was fiercely intelligent, howlingly funny, and a very talented person. She died much too young and leaves behind scores of people who knew and loved her. My heart goes out to her family, who are good people and are suffering the greatest loss anyone could bear. I hope everyone can give them space to heal in the most difficult time. Godspeed, Michelle. You are missed.
Gossip Girl creators Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage said in a joint statement, "We are deeply saddened by the news of Michelle's passing. Michelle was so funny, kind, and talented. Her portrayal of Georgina Sparks was an iconic fan favorite and grew from a one-season villain to a beloved character who returned over the course of 6 seasons. She was a delight to have on set and will be deeply missed." And finally, Sarah Michelle Gellar posted on Instagram in remembrance of her TV sister with a series of photos of them together, both on screen and off screen. And she said, "Michelle, listen to me. Listen, I love you. I will always love you. The hardest thing in this world is to live in it. I will be brave. I will live for you." And I was already like those words, that line was already circulating in my head because it's truly one of my most favorite scenes and lines in the show. I have Breathe Brave Live on a necklace that I got back in 2020 when I was going through some mental health struggles. And it's just kind of there always. And then when she passed, that's what I kept hearing. And I was waiting for Sarah's response to the news of Michelle's passing. And I really didn't see this coming. Like I imagined so many different things that she would say. I never once considered her actually using lines from the show. And I was like, oh my God, that's
I
so...
don't think anything would have been more perfect than what was done. And I know people were like griping that she didn't comment sooner, but it's like she's grieving.
Yeah, like she knew her that. And one of the photos, okay, there were 2 photos in that lineup. I don't know if you recall, if you saw them all, but there were 2 photos that hit me in the gut. One was her holding Sarah's baby, Charlotte, after she was born. Michelle is just like beaming with joy and just like laughing, and it's just such a sweet photo. And it was a little peek into like, oh, she and Sarah were close, like they were close off screen too, that enough for her to trust her to like hold her kid and her to go visit her, that was so cool to see that. And the other photo was the last photo in that lineup, which was of Michelle, Sarah, and Shannon Doherty. And I was like, oh, God, to know that 2 of them are gone. It was really a beautiful way for her to honor her. And my heart really goes out to not just her family, but also like people that she worked with, and like Sarah, who, like we know, like some of our closest friends we've found through jobs, like some of my closest friends I found through jobs. You and I like became friends through a job that we shared, and they really do become like family later on, like at a certain point sometimes. And you share every day with that person, and it's bonding is sometimes inevitable. And it just feels like I don't want to sound cheesy or dramatic, but it just feels like a little part of your childhood goes with them a little bit, when you lose someone who you've been watching on screen your whole life, and who's such a huge staple of your favorite show. Like I don't know. I didn't see it coming. It just was so painful, and I've been really struggling with it for multiple reasons. You know, it reminds me of a friend I lost last year at a really young age, who was only like, I think she was maybe 30 at the time, and that was tough. And then the year before that, my sister actually died with ironically enough, liver disease. And so when this came out, it just kind of reminded me of that. And so it's been hard to really and I wanted to text you actually, because I was like, last night I was really, as I was like working on like the outline for this episode, I was having so much anxiety about this episode, about us recording this. I was like, I'm just feeling really overwhelmed and anxious about doing it. I was having a lot of like emotions, and I'm like, that's silly. This is an actor that you've never met. But at the same time, as a creative, you really, I mean, we let that stuff in, you know, we let that into like our hearts and our souls, and like we absorb their work, you know, and we relate to it on a fundamental level sometimes in our lives. And it sometimes does feel like you're losing like a friend, even if you've never met them. And then the whole bringing up other emotional shit from, you know, my own dealings with the grief. It was just, so I almost texted you and was like, can we like maybe wait? I'm like, I'm having second thoughts, but then I was like, no, I really think it's important. I think it's important to have the conversation. I think it's important to honor her.
She's like our first, you know, like you said earlier, Buffy was the base of this podcast. It was how we bonded. And she is our first like main Buffy verse character. And I know, you know, we lost Andy Hallett, we lost Glenn Quinn. Those are like angel actors. I don't know if it's the same. Like, I love Andy Hallett. I mean, I love Lauren. I will always love Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, no, I did have a slight crush on him as Becky's like trash husband on Roseanne for Glenn. But I just,
yeah, he was kind of your type, right?
Yeah. He was different. Like, there was something about him on Roseanne that was much hotter than him as Doyle.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
But because I remember going like, he was hot on the other show, like as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know. There's just something about this particular show and this cast, and maybe even more so like Michelle, just through the years, because like Shannon, I think everything that I saw Shannon on that I could get my hands on, I enjoyed. Now I'm like, oh, we didn't do this for Shannon, but I don't think we were recording at the time. Were we? We weren't recording at the time.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
that was a tough one too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, millennials have really had it hard in the past year. We're losing so many of, and it really starts to make you stare your own mortality in the eye.
Exactly. And I'm like, this is how like my mom was feeling when people were kind of like dropping in the 90s and early 2000s, you know, like,
or when your own friends your age start to go. And then, you know, like that's a thing senior citizens deal with. And you hear all the time when like your grandparents start having like people they know dying, you hear them talk about it in such a like a solemn way. And you don't think much of it at the time, but then you know, fortunately I haven't had a bunch of friends my age like passing, but I mean, when you have their favorites from TV and film go and they're like your age and you've spent your whole like childhood and up watching them like that, it starts to hit you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Just a couple of years ago, a really popular guy here who was a bartender passed, and that I known for years, and he wasn't much older than me, if he was older than me, that was very sobering. And there's another guy, he was a photographer in the area. His house burned, and he succumbed to his injuries in the fire, while he was in the hospital, and passed. And it was that's, just being home alone, anything can happen. And sometimes it's not even about health, it's just about freak accidents.
Yeah. I don't even so much worry about myself in that way as I do. I'm afraid of who do I know and care about that I'm gonna lose next. That's where my fear comes in at, what call am I gonna get next, and what friend is it going to be, or what family member? I'm constantly terrified about that. And it really started to kick off when my sister passed back in 2023. Mm-hmm. And then when my friend Samantha passed last year, and that's only exacerbated that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a name for that kind of anxiety, but maybe it's just life. But I really do feel constantly terrified all the time. I think about it way more than a normal person should. Death and loss and but it is part of life. It's inevitable, and it's no point in fearing it. You just have to kind of roll with it, I guess. But
yeah, I think that's also something that happens when you lose someone close to you so young. You lost your brother. I lost, dear God, aunts. That felt like there was one year where there was a funeral for every year for a decade. It was wild. Maybe it wasn't that long, but I remember having to do a family timeline one year for school, and it was for several years in a row, funeral. This person died, this person died, this person died, this person died, this person died. Never a sibling or a parent, not until much later. My dad died in 2014. But just losing family members that you're close to at a young age makes you
I could see where that would condition you to whether it's one really big one or a series of family members or friends or whatever that you're I feel like it has to condition you to a certain extent of God. Yeah. But anyway, well, let's take a look at some of Michelle's most iconic roles. I'm really excited to watch some of these. I was watching them last night, and it just really made me smile and chuckle. We're going to start with Harriet the Spy, and this is the revenge scene where she takes revenge on her classmates.
Development. To be wished. To die. To sleep. No more.
Man,
I feel like the sport revenge was the most brutal of all of them. But I'm sorry, I had no sympathy for them.
They turn on her so fast.
Taken through a special instrument. The cords vibrate when the person breathes out. The larynx is here. The windpipe is the housing for the vocal.
She's so callous about it too. That was probably the least savage revenge of all of them. Hanging someone's bra on the flagpole is crazy.
how fast I messed up the experiment.
This is so funny. She just casually just fucks up this whole project. One snatch of a popsicle stick.
Hello, Marion. Get away from me, Harriet. Or what?
I hate this little bitch.
You gonna tell your father? I heard my parents talking.
Oh, I thought she washes her hands.
You didn't
That's how I
have a
wash my
father.
hands.
All
How
those stories
graceful.
about horseback riding are garbage. You made them all up. Your father lives in Amsterdam. He
And then
has
doesn't even like
3
take the
years.
paper towel off. She just
You
like,
want to know why, Marion?
Oh no, those were so gross. Those things were just like one loop.
why are
He
they?
doesn't love
Oh, I
you.
didn't know that. He doesn't love you.
Move.
Damn, that is so savage.
Listen, they could have just like let her alone after the fact.
But the paint,
The paint. Like, there was a fleeting moment when I was rewatching this movie where I felt bad for him, and then I was like, you know what? No, make sure it sticks and keep walking, girl. Keep on walking. Because they knew. To me, this is very much like people being mad at undocumented immigrants for working for like cheap labor instead of the people who are hiring undocumented immigrants because they can pay them less. Does that make sense?
I need the explanation on the equivalent.
Oh, like them being mad at her for what she wrote instead of being mad at Marion for reading her private thoughts out loud.
Oh, yes, yeah. That's
It
fair.
was like, it's like the Marion.
Okay, this is my my private innermost thoughts.
Yes, and
I never intended for you to hear it.
It was so messed up. Like, and the fact that she is the one that had to apologize, and they really like full in were just ready to shut her down. I was like, get him, Harriet, get him. I was there for it. I was.
Do you know what this reminded me of?
What?
Veronica Mars.
I
was like, we have seen Veronica Mars is just Harriet growing up.
Yes. I will take that. Oh, that was so good.
Very satisfying.
And I literally just rewatched it. So do you want to set us up for the next series of clips and I'll get that started?
Yes. So actually what I want to say about another thing about what's especially satisfying for the Harriet the Spy revenge montage, if you will, was the fact that Michelle in interviews had said many times over the years that she was a victim of bullying, like relentless bullying in school. And ironically, when she became older, obviously, and then she started like having a different appearance and then being bullied online for that, knowing that and then seeing, I bet she felt some kind of innate satisfaction acting some of that out on screen, because it, kind of working out that muscle psychologically, because maybe she wasn't able to get revenge on the actual kids who bullied her, but how satisfying it must have been to be able to do that in character. Because I'm like, God, I would have loved to have just you get to like live vicariously through these characters sometimes, because you can't fuck up your bullies in real life that way. Usually.
This is why I always love a get back scene is always so satisfying to me. It's like
vengeance driven plots are my favorite, especially if it's a woman. So good. Yeah. So we have some other clips that we've pulled together. Well, actually, it's a YouTube channel called Best of Reaction that's pulled it together. They created this specifically in remembrance of Michelle. And it's a montage of EuroTrip scenes, Ice Princess, scenes from 17 again, Gossip Girl, and of course, Buffy.
Get out. European ass.
What's up?
Oh, Jesus, Jenny. I thought you were some girl. Come on, platform 4.
Thanks.
Damn.
I believe this is yours.
Has a middle-aged man hit on a teenager.
My name is Christopher.
I know.
Let's go! Move it!
And they end up like finding this guy. I think he shows up everywhere they are.
So, it was really nice to meet you.
The pleasure was all mine. Jennifer.
She's such an every girl kind of like girl next door beauty, you know, and personality. This is such an iconic scene.
Oh, Michelle. I mean, and she was always a smaller framed person.
Holy crap!
What? I thought this was a nude beach.
I forgot how like fit he was, like the nerd brother.
They're all over the place.
Oh, this is so cringe.
He's the one who ends up getting.
So cringe.
Oh
my god!
Her brother.
I forgot about this.
That is some pretty fucked up shit.
And they realize it. Oh my god.
Oh no!
They really are the worst twins ever.
The worst twins ever.
She was such a good screamer.
Ice Princess. So this is one that I vaguely like remember from just like having the Disney Channel, but I know I've never seen it. Like Kim Cattrall is her mom,
and here's her
right?
opening jump, a triple sow cow.
But like,
You know, she actually, she actually trained with an Olympian gold medalist for this.
Triple loop.
She got the bruises to prove it. I want to say she like messed up her ankle at one point. Like
What? She just threw in that triple Lutz.
Ruin's right. That was complete improvisation.
I don't think I've seen anyone come back this far from mid-program disaster.
So I'm
since
interested
Medora
to know
Ito in the
if at
92
any
Olympics.
point, like, is this all her, or are there?
I mean, it looks like it.
Doing any of the things. 'Cause I know she did a lot of training for this.
Stan dumped me. Oh my. Stan dumped you? Stan dumped you? What? What happened? Whoa. How did this? What did he do?
What
did you ever see this one?
17 again. Yeah, no, I
After
don't
the
think I've
game.
ever seen it.
It's with Matthew Perry.
He took me behind
as
the
well,
quad,
and
and
it's actually really
Can't hear
fun.
this.
Is,
You didn't.
Is he supposed to be like
No, Max.
Matthew Perry? Because it's like big, right?
Yeah,
Very much
it's
big,
Matthew
but-
Perry.
That's why.
This is Matthew Perry when he becomes young again, 17 again.
Okay.
Max, hey, it's okay.
It's like a reverse big.
You know,
Yeah.
when you're young, everything feels like the end of the world. It's not.
What is this guy's name
It's just the
again?
beginning.
Zac Efron.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello,
yes.
Blair. Georgina?
You don't sound like yourself.
That's funny, because I feel more like myself than ever.
Where are you?
Taking care of what you obviously couldn't.
I don't think Jesus would approve of that.
Well, you can tell Jesus that the bitch is back.
Okay. The setup to this was great because she was trying to change her life in some Christian cult when they got her to come back to town to do some mean girl shit. And then she's like, I'm back,
Buffy,
baby.
if you're going out, why don't you take your sister?
Well, the first time we met Dawn,
Buffy, you have to
we
let
were
me go.
shook.
Blood starts it, and until the blood stops flowing, it'll never stop. No, you have to let me. It has to have the blood.
Because it's always got to be blood.
It's Summer's blood. It's just like mine. She's me. The monks made her out of me.
Death is your gift.
Death
is your gift.
Not the music. Not the music.
I know.
Buffy, no.
Donnie, I have to.
No!
Listen to me. Please, there's not a lot of time. Listen.
I remember when this first panned out and you couldn't hear. I'm like, no, I want to hear what she's saying to her.
I know. I was so mad. Like, what? How dare you?
And then when the voiceover came, it's like, oh, okay, all right.
And give my love to my friends. You have to take care of them now. You have to take care of each other. You have to be strong. Dawn, the hardest thing in this world is to live in it. Be brave. Live. For me.
Well,
just things. This episode brought to you in part by Kleenex. Oh my God. I want us to talk a little bit about some of our favorite Michelle roles and why they resonate with us and what those characters mean to us now. Kenny, you can go first.
You know, I love Dawn. I really do. But I think that my favorite one of her characters would have to be Georgina, just because she is like relentlessly evil. Like, I think every good story needs an antagonist and someone that you love to hate.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgina fills that role. Just like in Once Upon a Time for me, like Regina, like when she was at her best at being the villain of the show, I was like, God, I can't stand her, but I love her.
Mm-hmm.
That is how I felt about Georgina Sparks. Like,
we all love someone that we can hate, you know.
Yes.
It's
but it was just everything about her. The fashion, because like the fashion on Gossip Girl was typically on point. It is Gossip Girl in itself is a time capsule of that era because of the music, of the fashion. It is very much that. And so everything Georgina wore was fabulous. And her hair was either like down, like you know, Michelle's typical like down with the little curls at the end, or just tight pony. But she, like I said, they put that smoky eye on my girl, and she was ready to raise hell.
Yeah. I wonder if that smoky eye just really empowered her. You know, once she got into those bougie ass clothes and got that makeup did up, like, was she just feeling the villain, you know?
Like, even on Weeds, she had a deep smoky eye, and she was essentially, like, spoilers for the show, she was the head of this rival gang that they were trying to sell the weed to. But she, like, tricked the guy. Well, she didn't even trick. It was just because he assumed that the person running the other organization was a man. She seduced him, got all the information on their operation, stole their computer, fucked their shit up. They thought they got the last laugh when she got arrested, but she told the cops everything.
Oh, not a snitch. And what show is this?
Weeds, season 7. She had like a 4 or 5 episode arc. Yeah.
Wait, this was Weeds. So she was in Weeds and in 6 Feet Under?
Yeah. Yeah. In 6 Feet Under, I didn't get to watch the episode, but she was supposed to be like a spoiled pop princess or something like that. So I don't know if her character died or if she was related to someone who died. I don't know if it was one episode or like a multi-episode arc that she was in. But yeah, she did Weeds.
Yeah.
So Weeds was a Showtime show, and then 6 Feet Under was an HBO show.
Okay. I always imagine I would have really enjoyed Georgina Sparks if I ever had watched Gossip Girl. And she does seem to have a lot of really fun one-liners from the clips that I've seen. You know how I feel about a good bitchy villain. But yeah, I didn't get as acquainted with that one. But and while Harriet the Spy is a fun one, and it's what was my first introduction to Michelle, I would have to say Dawn was my favorite because that feels like family, and that's like I could see a lot of myself in Dawn. You're around like the same age, and so watching her feel left out a lot in the beginning and treated as and dismissed as just sort of a child. I often felt that myself at that age. I was always wanting to hang out with my brothers and their friends, and they wouldn't, and the few times I was allowed, I was like, I gotta keep it together. I gotta I don't want to do anything, but I felt like I was always flubbing or screwing something up, and then the fact that she would, she liked to write in her diary, and I was big into writing in my diary and stuff, and Dawn can be a really, really obnoxious character sometimes, but the thing about Michelle Trachtenberg that we really have to, no matter how annoying Dawn was, and whether you like Michelle's acting or not, whether you were a fan of her or not, Michelle Trachtenberg always understood the assignment. She was given a script. She took that script and she did exactly what she was supposed to do. You weren't going to get something that was going to be super crazy off the page. She wasn't going to take it and try to turn it into like a extravagant role or a way for her to necessarily show off her in-depth acting chops or whatever. Like she delivered what the script called for. And so when she was written as Buffy's annoying little sister, who was super insecure, very emotional, and messy and klepto, she delivered on all those points, and she was very convincing as that annoying little sister, and she became the annoying little sister that you come to really love and become protective over, just like the Scoobies were. Yeah. So I related to her because of that, and she became like family in the show. Like Buffy just wouldn't feel the same without her, and now it just feels like I almost kind of dread, because I am doing a Buffy rewatch right now, and I am wrapping up season 3, and so we've not gotten to Dawn yet, but I almost kind of I'm having to prepare myself. I'm taking deep breaths just thinking about it, because I dread a little bit, knowing that she is no longer here with us, and it kind of leaves a little hole, watching back, and that's the first time I've ever felt that way watching Buffy, and that's a weird new feeling for me. But yeah, I would say that's, and she also had a way of playing characters, by the way, that I wanted to say this before I forgot. Michelle was so effective at being really vulnerable, like on camera. Like but through a lot of her characters, there was a certain level of vulnerability and emotion that she brought that made her character seem more genuine or more authentic, or what's the word I'm looking for? Realistic, I think. They weren't always clean, tightened up characters. They were a little messy sometimes, and I don't know. It just made me wonder how much of her that she poured into them, and which characters she may have said it in interviews before. I would love to know which character she resonated with the most. I do remember her saying in an interview that her favorite character to play was Georgina.
Yeah.
I can totally see it. Totally see that. I had so much fun with it.
Exactly. When you get to play those characters, you just get to have the most fun. And I feel like she was having a great time every time she got to hop into that role as Georgina. But, Dawn became such a strong character by like the end of season 7. She's truly a force to be reckoned with. And it's sad to see, us lose a little light.
Yeah. We've talked about it ad nauseum at this point, but her loss, you can really feel it across all of the millennial community as a collective, because when I tell you the outpouring of videos that I have seen from people, not just like regular creators, but just people who just felt compelled to make a video about how much they're grieving at the loss of her, and this is the like you said, the first main character of the Buffy cast we've lost, and it does feel like there's now something missing in the Buffy family, and I can only imagine how her colleagues from Buffy feel in that regard. I am curious what you think about where this leaves the highly anticipated reboot, because I've seen some fans say they no longer care to see a Buffy reboot, that it wouldn't be the same without Dawn, and that not even necessarily assuming that Dawn would have been a part of it, but just the idea that Michelle is passed, it seems kind of, I don't know if they felt like it would be tacky to continue on or whatever, but do you what do you feel about that? And do you think that it would be like weird or tacky to proceed with the reboot, or would it be an honor for Sarah Michelle Gellar and the team to continue with the reboot to honor her? And how could they honor her in it?
I don't know. I've honestly not given much thought to whether or not this would affect the reboot, because in my mind, you can do this one of two ways. You can either move forward with no Dawn as if this was a world where Dawn did not exist, as we've already seen them kind of do an alternate universe kind of deal with the audio series. Or if they decide to keep her alive off screen until they can come up with a story as to something happening to her. But if something happens to her, does the magic that kept Dawn alive dissipate? And then if she dies, does she leave our memories anyway from the show?
Interesting.
So that's kind of one of the things about a genre show like that is kind of making up a mythology as they go, is that they can kind of shift the story to meet whatever narrative they're trying to do. And no matter what, people are going to complain.
Yeah.
If this is something that the actors, like if Sarah and the rest of the team are still interested in it, I'm still going to watch it, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And who's to say that Michelle was going to want to come back anyway? Like you said, we don't know if she was even a part of it. We don't know who they've talked to or what they're doing. So in my mind, I'm just going to let the creators cook. If they choose to not do it, I will understand. I'll be a little sad, but I will definitely understand and move on.
Mm-hmm.
But if they take a little time to cook and bring us a good story and are able to present us with an in-story reason as to why Dawn is no longer there, I can accept that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there's opportunity to really honor Michelle's memory. And I think if anyone would do that and do it tastefully, it would be Sarah Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that she understands the importance and like having the relationship with Michelle and being just a good empathetic human that she is. I think there are absolutely ways, there are always ways, right? And what did they decide? They may decide to keep her alive off screen and she lives forever.
Dawn's
kind of
in college. Well, I guess Dawn will be out of college.
I mean, at this point,
like, Dawn has kids and
Dawn settled down with children.
Man, she is not coming back over this way at all. She does not want anything to do with a Slayer. Okay, so like a car or something must have just driven by your window, and I saw the light, and it almost looked like the door behind you was about to open, and I had a moment. And I was like, no, that was...
Don't tell me that. What's really upsetting about this? What's really upsetting about this house? Well, I can't close this door because it's a closet that, for some reason, like in old houses, how like the door frames swell and shrink during fluctuation of temperatures, and that's what I'm dealing with all the time in this house.
Season.
When I tell you, there are times where the doors don't even fully close, including the front door. The front door, Keenan, doesn't even fully close sometimes, and we have to deadbolt it just to get it to. And so I've started having to install locks on all the doors just to get them to close, including the bathroom door. Just last night, I had to install a hotel lock, one of those like bar kind of like where you like flip, and then like when you open it, opens just enough.
Latch.
Like,
yeah.
I had to install that in the bathroom last night because it was all I had as far as like a spare lock, just so that the killer couldn't just pop in and get me while I'm in the shower. Like, I'm always thinking about the killer. When I tell you, I am always strategically placing potential weapons in every room, and I have like a knife here. I keep a knife there. There's something, a heavy letter, a heavy door. Like, what is it called? Like desk.
Well, I mean, you're saying that's the person who notoriously sleeps with a machete by their bed. So I'm
machete is so next level. Could you imagine, like, someone's just trying to break in? They're not trying to hurt you. They're just trying to steal like a computer, a camera, or something. Like, and
something's gonna be missing when they come out this house.
They're not expecting you to be home for whatever reason, and they stumble into your room, and it's just Keenan in the shadows in the corner with the machete, and they just shot themselves. It's just, you should have.
If I swing it fast enough, it sings. So
what? Yeah, like what you should have a replica of the Buffy site.
I mean, over my bed, just so I can go.
Yes. Oh, the fear that would send through an intruder. That would be so funny. Terrifying for you, but funny.
What episode was it where she was like, you'd be surprised what a stake through the heart could kill? Because they were like, oh, does a stake, I can't remember what they're referencing, but she was like, a stake through the heart ought to do it. They're like, will that work? She goes, you surprised what a stake through the heart could kill.
Yep. What episode? I just watched that. What episode was that? Was it season 3?
Was it a season 3 episode? Was it Faith that said it?
It was either Faith that said it, or it was maybe Buffy in the alternate universe where she doesn't come to Sunnydale until
on the Wish. I think it was the Wish.
Yeah, because she said it very like nonchalantly. You know what I mean? Like you'd be surprised what a like Buffy is like Buffy in the Wish was what was like. It was kind of like I heard someone else describe it this way, and I was like, yeah, I can see that. It was like a combination of both Kendra and Faith, you know, where she was just all about the playing.
An Americanized Kendra. I wouldn't even put Faith in the mix because I don't think she was like living like she's an Americanized Kendra. Like if you had the same situation that Kendra was put in, but put her like as an American situation, that is what you had.
And the only reason I say Faith is I agree. The only reason I say Faith is because in the very beginning, Faith was just about the slaying, and it didn't matter what kind of like demon or vampire it was. Like you getting stays, you know. And she couldn't understand that Buffy saw it like in shades of gray as it was, and but then you know she kind of went off the rails
she saw
villain.
Damn. She saw Angel.
She saw the world in black and
gray.
white. Yeah.
She saw Angel in shades of gray. I think everything else was a little everything else was a little black and white, but Angel had shades of gray.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, but we're not here to talk about Buffy. We're here to talk about Dawn.
We're here to talk about it a little bit.
Okay. If there is a reboot, if it ends up happening, when it happens, I will watch it.
Same. We could do a watch party.
Well, that'll be fun. So, everyone, thanks for listening to the Rewind podcast. Before you go, please take a moment to show some love for your favorite podcast by leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen, because there's so many places out there. Every positive review, rating, and subscriber helps get us up there in the algorithm, because while we're on a break, some other people made a podcast with the same name and they have multiple episodes. So we have to get a little relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are like probably a handful of the rewinds out there.
There were a few like when we started, but like this one specifically, it looks like the episodes are airing when we weren't recording. And I was like, so that's always the one that shows up when I look up the Rewind. So for the longest time, even on YouTube, I have to put the Rewind podcast with Jonah and Keenan to make it a little more specific. But
we got to take our power back.
And we got to get back up there on the algorithm or the whatever it is that they
help us take our power back, folks.
Yes. So do that.
You can also connect with us on the socials. Find us on Facebook at The Rewind Podcast 1 or search The Rewind Podcast, Blue Sky at The Rewind Podcast, .bsky.social, Instagram at The Rewind Podcast, and TikTok at The Rewind Podcast.
And we'd love to hear from you. So for longer listener feedback, you can email us at therewindpodcast1@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky at Keeks on Camera. And you can also listen to me on DC Studios Podcasts.
And you can find me at Instagram, JS Taylor Writes, or keeping.it.reels, and on TikTok at The Cult Pop.
So thank you all for listening to our episode, our special moments of singing our praises of the fabulous Michelle Trachtenberg. Be kind.
And please rewind.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Just be kind and listen to the rewind.